بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا بني أقم الصلاة وأمر بالمعروف وانه عن المنكر واصبر على ما أصابك إن ذلك من عزم الأمور. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The verse that I recited is from chapter 31, known as chapter of Luqman, verse number 17. It is very, I won't use the word unusual, but we see as to how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in regards to a person who probably was not even a prophet, dedicates a whole chapter. And that really tells us that in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anyone who excels and exceeds and performs and tries to reach prosperity and cleanses himself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not remove their remembrance. And therefore we see the remembrance of Luqman in this holy book of Quran. Until the time people keep reciting this Quran, he will be remembered. And therefore this is one way of keeping your loved ones, for that matter as well. And that's why we see that Luqman was someone who would have been lost in the history. How many people such as Luqman existed, but never do you hear a great deal in regards to those people. But when you get yourself associated with that which is everlasting, you also become everlasting. And so this Quran is everlasting, this message is everlasting. When Luqman was associated with it, he also, and his message and his tazkirah became everlasting. Last night a question was asked in regards to Salat, which prompted me that I speak about this concept as well. But inshallah the discussion will be in a way that hopefully you have, some of you, with the exception of some of you, might not have heard in regards to Salat from this aspect. Inshallah we'll try to address those issues as well. The verse is very simple, which is very straightforward, from Surah Luqman, chapter 31, verse number 17. The way Luqman is speaking to his son, which also shows the mercy and the compassion that he's putting into this difficult task that he's telling. This also tells us that Luqman, whenever he existed, whenever time he lived in, Salat was something which existed at that time. Salat is not something which is a product of Islam. Rather, Salat in every which form existed even in the prior divine religions. And so now when they have distorted their way of worship, that's another thing, but it's something which is a testimony over here that even Luqman is giving this instruction to his son to go ahead and perform the Salat. Similarly, when we had talked about in the previous nights how this fast is one of the most difficult of the ibadat, but the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses us, Imam says that it relieves us of the difficulty of this ibadat. لَذَّةٌ مَا فِي النِّدَاءِ أَزَالَ الطَّعَبْ وَالْإِنَاءِ. The way Allah addresses by saying, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, this nida of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relieves us of any type of difficulty there might be in this ibadat. So that's the beauty of it. Similarly, we see Luqman has also adopted the same methodology, that he wants to tell his son in regards to an act which is very difficult to carry out. What does he say? He says, Ya bunayya. In Arabic, those who are Arab speaking, they understand the word bunayya is from, tasghir. Is the tasghir of bani. Bani is usually, you hear the word bani, right? Ya bani or ya ibn, ya ibni. But when you say bunayya, it becomes the tasghir. Tasghir, what do I mean by tasghir? For example, to speak to someone and consider him to be smaller, for example. Like the word Hasan, if you want to make the tasghir of it, Hussein comes out of it, right? So this is how in Arabic you can make the tasghir of any word. So bunayya is basically giving you that message that when you're referring to someone who's young and you speak with in this way that he right away is attracted towards you, and he feels that some sort of message of compassion is about to come. So right away the child will look. You won't say Ya Bunayya when you want to scold the child, when you want to go ahead and address something or something that he has committed wrong. So here we see Luqman uses the same method because he wants to give this message to his son so that he really applies it and he performs it. He says, Ya Bunayya, aqimis salat wa'amur bil ma'ruf wanha anil munkar. O my beloved son, keep up prayer, enjoin the good and forbid the evil, and bear patiently that which befalls you. وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَكَ. And be patient, that which comes about and befalls you. Why? And then he says, surely these acts require courage. It's not something which will be, easy said than done. You will need a lot of courage in order to go ahead and go through all of these things. So inshallah, in the light of the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the words of Luqman in this book of Quran, inshallah we'll shed some light on this first instruction of Salat. Because that's the first instruction that he's given to his son. We see that Salat is the simplest, most, in regards to deepest and most beautiful connection between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the creation. And that's why when we read in that famous hadith from our Prophet when he went to Mi'raj, it's called Hadith Mi'raj, right? He went there and he was having this discussion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the discussion is so that Allah, when He addresses our Prophet in the Arsh, how does He address him? Ya Ahmad. Ya Ahmad. You can find this whole hadith in Irshad al-Dailami. The whole hadith has been narrated over there. That Prophet is known as Muhammad over here, and he's known as Ahmad over there. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allah asks him different things and different questions. It was basically an enlightenment for Prophet. Yes, he knows, he has the knowledge. But in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from whom he has taken all the knowledge, he says what? Ya Allah, Allah adri. I do not know. I do not know. And so here we understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving these instructions to our Prophet by asking different questions. He says, one of the questions that he asks our Prophet, he says, Ya Ahmad, هل تدري بأي وقت يتقرب العبد إلى المعبود? Do you know what is the time when my servant is closest to me? Yes? When we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's no physical closeness which is being mentioned over here. It's the spiritual closeness. And that's why we say qurbatan ilallah for every ibadah that we perform. So here Allah is saying, بِأَيِّ وَقْتٍ, what is the time when my abd is closest to me? Prophet said, La adri, I do not know. Allah replied by saying, إِذَا كَانَ جَائِعًا أَوْ سَاجِدًا. In two states. When he is empty stomach, that means he's fasting, أَوْ سَاجِدًا, and when he's performing the sajda, when he's prostrating. So two things are combined over here for you in this month of Ramadan, that you are ja'i', you've been fasting all day long, you're empty stomach, and later on you will be performing this sajda. That is the time when you are closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we see that the salat, by the, by which we are getting the sajda as well, which is the awj and the peak of the salat, we see it is the most simple, yet it is the most profound and the beautiful connection that exists between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His worshippers. It existed in all divine religions. In fact, I would go on and say that it exists in even non-divine religions. Because there's this concept of going and worshipping someone who's above you. Secondly, we look at salat as the only worship prior to which you would need to find a person with beautiful voice to go ahead and pronounce and call people towards the prayer. There's no other ibadat in which you are calling people towards this ibadat. Hayya ala sawm, hayya ala sawm, there's no such thing. Hayya al hajj, yes, Hazrat Ibrahim was ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to call people towards his land. But it was not necessarily for hajj, wa adhin, right? The ayat of adhin. But nonetheless, we see this is the only ibadat for which you would require someone with beautiful voice to go ahead and call people towards it. By calling hayya ala salah, by calling hayya ala falah, by saying hayya ala khayr al-amal. And when we are on the discussion of hayya ala khayr al-amal, there's an ayat of Quran in Surah Al Imran which says that there are people, kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nas, ta'muruna bil khayr, talking about amr bil ma'ruf wa nahi anil munkar, and you call people towards khayr. Here the question is, what is this ummah? Who is this ummah which does all of these things and calls people towards khair? Because our brothers in faith have omitted this word, hayya ala khairil amal. The only madhab tashayyu is the madhab in which you still have hayya ala khairil amal. Every time when we stand up for salat, that they're calling towards this khair. Therefore you are the manifestation of this ayat of Quran, وَكُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ صَلُّوا عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَآلِ مُحَمَّدٍ. But we see, look at this adhan. Just don't go by this adhan. When this adhan is recited, you hear it every time. There's a complete list of your aqaid and beliefs that are being mentioned in this Quran, in this adhan. And if you fail to understand it first time, iqamat will remind you again. The talk of wahdaniyat of Allah, the talk of the messenger of Allah, Rasulullah, the talk of the wilayat of Amirul Mu'mineen, and then how you are being called towards the salat. We see that the doctrines and the beliefs are being mentioned. And thirdly, it is awakening those who are heedless about this salat. Not literally, as-salatu khayrun min an-nawm, awakening people who are sleeping, but actually waking them up when they are heedless of this salat. Every time they hear this in their ears, they will stand up and they will perform this salat. We see how important is this salat. I'm not going to be using ahadith over here, but just to point out that the importance of this salat is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed Hazrat Ibrahim, and who made it to be his objective that when his wife and his infant is left in that desert without food and water in that land which is known as Makkah, he wants to do what? In order to go ahead and introduce salat to the community. The only reason Hazrat Ibrahim, because Hazrat Ibrahim was put through different tests, is leaving his wife and son in that plains of Mecca, in that desert, بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ, as the ayat of Quran reads, right? Wadi, a place where there's no zarat, where there's no people living there. Imagine you are asked, given this task that you have to leave your family in such a remote place. How difficult of a task it is. We wouldn't even think about it. We'll put ourselves into difficulty and we'll leave our family out of it. Therefore we see how difficult it is for Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ. But the reason he's leaving, he does not mention, I'm leaving this for Hajj, I'm leaving this for another reason. He said, I'm leaving this because so that salat is recognized. I'll read the ayat for you. Chapter 14, verse 37. رَبَّنَا إِنِّي أَسْكَنْتُ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ عِنْدَ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. I'm leaving them. The first reason is لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, so that the salat will be established. This is the reason that Hazrat Ibrahim is sacrificing. One of the reasons when we read the ayat of Quran, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ, one of the tests that Hazrat Ibrahim was put through was this test of leaving his family. There were other tests as well, but we see this was one of the tests. And then we see when we travel, right away when you look at this ayat, you got to reflect on it by yourself as well. That when we travel, forget about leaving the family out in a desert. Nobody's asking you to do that. But when we are traveling, and we're traveling a lot, is salat the first thing on our mind? Oh, we'll pray. You hear this notion. We'll pray when we get home. I don't know about the taharat, I'm clean or not, so I'm not gonna pray. Salat is so important that it cannot be omitted under any circumstances, none whatsoever. Even if you're on your deathbed and it's time for salat, you must go ahead and perform the salat. However you can do it. Even just by pointing fingers you can perform salat, you have to do it. With isharat. But it cannot be skipped and omitted under any circumstance. Oh, because, I don't know about the taharat over here. I don't know if it's okay for me to pray over here. Yeah, you have to find that out if it's a public place. I don't know this, I don't know that. But we'll pray when we get home. Yes, if there plenty of time in namaz, then that's another story. But if it's going to be qaza, then you should not be saying this thing. Secondly, we look that Imam Hussein, alayhi salatu wassalam, salawat bi Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Imam made his chest to be on the receiving end of the enemy's attack on the day of Ashur to perform Salat al-Zuhr. He left his chest to be on the receiving end of the arrows that were being thrown by the enemy, so that we can only go ahead and perform Salat al-Zuhr, that too on time. We are sitting in the comfort of our homes, Yet, we are delaying it without any reason. Without any, reason which will be excusable reason, which is excused by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't find it. And that's why we read such hadith that such Imam said, لا ينال شفاعتنا من استخف بالصلاة. You don't want shafa'at of Imam? Do you think that we are good without the shafa'at of Masumin? You think intercession will not be something which we'll need because our amal are good enough? Then that's fine. But if you think your amal are not good enough for you to be on par, then you will need this shafa'at. And you will definitely need this shafa'at. But Imam is saying one thing. Our shafa'at will not reach out to those who take the salat lightly. Imam did not say those who do not pray. Because there's an ayat in Quran for that. Surah Muddassir, if you read, يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عَنِ الْمُجْرِمِينَ مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي سَقَرٍ. It will be asked from those criminals in the hell, what happened that you ended up in hell? They will reply by saying, لَمْ نَكُ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. We were not amongst those who used to pray. And then there's a longer list. But the first thing that they mention is what? The reason we ended up over here is because we didn't used to pray. So Imam did not say, those who don't pray will not receive our shafaat. Imam said, those who take salat lightly will not receive our shafaat. And he's referring to those of us who, even in the comfort of our homes, there's no, nothing which is becoming a bar in between us, an obstacle in between us and performing the salat, yet we still show less importance towards it. Quran orders Hazrat Ibrahim and Hazrat Ismail alayhim as-salatu was-salam to purify Masjid al-Haram for whom? For the worshippers. So that they may come and perform the Salah. Salat is so important that the likes of Hazrat Zakaria, Hazrat Maryam, Hazrat Ibrahim and Hazrat Ismail are considered to be the servants of the places of worship. So next time when a person asks you, can you clean up the place of worship? Do not shy away. Because if you want to be in the saf of Zakaria, Maryam, Ibrahim and Ismail, then you would be the one who is serving the place which is a place of worship. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Salat sparkles in the life of a mu'min from the beginning of his life up until the end of his life. You look at it from this way, that when a child is born, adhan and iqamat is recited. Nothing else is done after that. Only salat is recited when this person is put to rest and he's dying, when he's dead. Salatul janazah for that matter. So your whole life is in between what? In between adhan and the salat. You imagine, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. There's a reason behind it, that after you only recite adhan and iqamat, and then when a person dies and is leaving this world or has left this world, what do you perform? You perform Salatul Janazah. So our life is basically in between adhan and iqamat and Salatul Janazah. That's what our life is. Pray before your prayer is offered. That is the slogan that used to be very famous when we were growing up in Pakistan. We would hear, Namaz padho, isse pehle ke tumhari namaz padhai jaye. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Salat, as I mentioned last night as well when the question was raised, is the key to the acceptance of all the amal. I won't repeat that hadith which I recited last night, but Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam, in Nahjul Balagha, when he writes that letter addressing his commanders, the commanders of different, or the governors of different places, he says, dedicate salat for the best of your times. Dedicate salat for the best of your time. We read in this hadith, which was asked from our sixth Imam, that أَيُّ أَعْمَالِ الْأَفْضَلِ قَالَ الصَّلَاةُ لِوَقْتِهَا بِرُّ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْجِهَادُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. What is the best of the actions? Imam replied by saying, Salat liwaqtiha. Imam did not say as-salat awwal waqtin, right? He did not say as-salat awwal waqt, that it is the first, the prime time. He said liwaqtiha. For example, you might be stuck in a place where you're unable to pray. There's no way for you to perform. For example, there's an emergency. You don't prefer salat over those areas. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this religion is a humanly religion where you take care of people and then you get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will not mind that at all. But when you delay it without any of those justifiable excuses, only then you will be there will be apprehension about that. Here we see that he says the best of the actions first is Salat li waqtiha. Salat li waqtiha. So it could be the waqt of Salat, could be, for example, when it's the time of Zawal. That's the time for Salat. But sometime it could be later on, because you are at that time, let's say at work. You're unable to perform this Salat at work because, whatever reason, you're not given the time, or it is against the policy of the work. You do not go against that. When you perform Salat on the first time, when you get this time, that will be considered Salat li waqtiha. Here we need to understand the concept, so we see that what Imam is saying over here. Second, he said Barrul Walidain, and the third thing he said, Jihad fi sabilillah. Here it also shows us the importance, how important it is to take care of the parents, how important it is for people to go to Jihad. People thinking that they will avoid going to Jihad, they got rid of Hayya ala khair al-amal from the Salat, that people will think the Salat is the most important action, then they won't go to Jihad. No, that is the reason Salat is mentioned above all of these things, but Jihad should be also kept in mind. Second place, we see that our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, was asked in regards to that ayat, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. He said, who are these musallin that are being referred to? Woe unto these musallin, these worshippers, those who are heedless from their salat. One reason that Imam mentioned, he said, is referring towards the tariqeen as-salat. But then a person said, tariqeen as-salat would not be those who are musallin. Imam ﷺ said, those who delay the salat from the time without any excuse are being referred over here. فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ. Surah Ma'un, you read this ayat, it says, woe unto those who are worshippers. Woe unto those who are worshippers. Why woe unto those who are worshippers? Because when they get up to perform the salat after time, this is what they are receiving. We see that this is the only remembrance of God which is viable, of pleasure, and the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is achieved from it. And it's the only way that the complete pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is achieved. And that's why you read in Quran, when we read that ayat from Surah Fajr, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna. Allah wants us all to have this nafs mutma'in. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as to how do we get to this nafs mutma'in. You are addressing this nafs mutma'in, which is the serene soul. Allah will say, refer to another ayat of Quran, ba'duhum yufassir ba'd. Some of the verses of Quran do the tafsir of others. It says, ala bidhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Is it not with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the qulub are at rest and their pleasure is sought? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, how do we do the dhikr of you? He will say to us, read another ayat of Quran, aqimis salata li dhikri. Perform the salat for my dhikr, for my remembrance, as it's the best form of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In fact, salat is something which is mentioned throughout the Quran. Pretty much all of the chapters of Quran. But salat is mentioned in the biggest of the chapter of Quran, and salat is also mentioned in the smallest chapter of Quran. Yes, there's numerous occasions you read in regards to salat in Surah Baqarah, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ إِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. Seek assistance from sabr and salat. And then we read in the smallest chapter of Quran, إِنَّا أَعْطَيْنَاكَ الْكَوْثَرَ فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. So even in the smallest of the chapter, the salat is mentioned. There's a prescribed salat, which is known as Salat al-Ayat, for all the calamities of the land. But even the celestial movements and whatnot, there's Salat al-Ayat for that as well. In fact, when you want to ask for the rain from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's Salat al-Istisqa for that. That's how important the salat is, that you will find it for every segment of your life. Salat keeps us away from many evils and indecencies. This is the promise which is being made. Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. It's a question that we need to answer, that we've been praying. Some of us been praying for 60 years, 70 years, 50 years, 40 years, 30 years. Some of you just started praying in the last 4 or 5 years as you became baligh, for example. Has the salat kept us away from fahsha and munkar? Because this is an ayat of Quran. Ayat of Quran is very simple. It's not saying who does it keep away. It said salat keeps those who are musallin. It keeps them away from tanha anil fahsha wal munkar. every type of evil and indecency. Yet we still see that many of those people who perform the salat are still indulged in indecencies, are still performing evil. So is this statement wrong? Na'udhu billah. It's kalam hakim. It's the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't challenge that. Then why is it that when we pray, we are not achieving what is to be achieved over here? You can raise the argument the same way when Allah says, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, that by fasting you become muttaqi. We've been fasting for 30, 40 years. We have not become muttaqi yet. We call ourselves mu'mineen, alhamdulillah, but we do not refer to ourselves as muttaqeen yet. Because if you refer to what is the criteria of taqwa, then you go ahead and read that khutbah in Nahj al-Balagha 193, that Imam is addressing Hammam in regards to muttaqeen. Muttaqeen are these, muttaqeen are these, muttaqeen are this, mantaquhum as-sawab, their dress is like this, their speech is like this, and so on and so forth. We're not at the level of taqwa yet. So does that mean this ayat of Quran is not true, that those who fast, they will become muttaqeen? No, the ayat is true. It's just that we do not fast the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to fast. We only fast by the abstention of food and drink, yet we fail to fast with the abstention of that which is haram for us to look, that which is haram for us to hear, that which is haram for us to say. We do not fast with those facets, and therefore we find ourselves not at the level of taqwa. Our fast will be from the obligatory point of view, it will be accepted, but not from the aspect that it is taking us to the level of taqwa. Similarly, in the salat tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar, people might say that how come the salat is not keeping me away from fahsha and munkar? And you see that a lot of people enter universities. Thousands of people enroll into a college and a university, but not all 1,000 of them come out having attained a degree, having been considered as graduates. Many are dropouts. Many do not even finish it. Many do not have the ability to finish it. So is there anything wrong with the university that these people are not able to? No. If it was wrong, then nobody would be able to attain this highest degree. But similar thing we see over here. There's nothing wrong with the salat. It's just that many of us do not pray the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to pray. And therefore we are not able to attain all of those benefits that are attached with it. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. What are some of those things? I'll go through it very quickly. I've run out of my time. Cleanliness and hygiene in rinsing of the mouth when you perform this wudu. Physical purity through wudu and ghusl. Even purification of the dress, physically as well as spiritually, that this dress you're wearing is not usurped, that you have not taken the right of another individual, that you're performing the salat in. If that's the case, then the salat is not accepted. Audacity and courage in shouting the slogans when you're calling for the adhan and calling two people towards it. Being present in the moment, which is called you're standing all together in congregation without any, caste or without any statuses. Importance of justice is highlighted when we choose an imam who's adil and who can lead the salat. Sense of continuous direction is felt when we are facing constantly towards Ka'batullah, Khana Kaaba. Importance of politics and wilayat of ma'asumin is understood when we see that if you do not believe in the wilayat of ma'asumin, your salat is useless. Sense of unity is felt in congregation. Importance of martyrdom is highlighted when we put our forehead onto the turbat of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. Cognizance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there throughout the salat. Attention towards the resurrection is there when we say Maliki Yawmiddin. When we choose the right company and we want to perform the duty of tawalla, we read this ayah, Sirat al-Ladina an'amta alayhim. And when we want to choose and stay away from those who should not be in our company, and we want to perform tabarra, we recite Ghayril Maghdub alayhim waladhdallin. So you find tabarra there, you find tawalla there, you find the company of those you want to be in, and you find the company of those you do not want to be in. All of them are associated with this salah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I did not get to finish all of the remaining hadiths that I had brought in front of you. But nonetheless, inshallah, we have this whole month, or at least the first 15 nights. I will be, inshallah, able to finish some of these things off. But as we were discussing, since the discussion has come to the turbat of Imam Hussein, every time we place our forehead on this turba, we are reminded of this struggle and this martyrdom of Imam Hussein. And that is the reason when we perform this salat, we keep in our mind that when Janab Zainab was leaving, Imam Hussein was leaving towards Maqtal, he said one thing to his sister, Sharikatul Hussein. What did he say? He said, Ya ukhti, la tansini fi salat al-layl. Oh my sister, do not forget me in your salat al-layl. Imam has such trust in his sister that he knows, forget about the regular salat. Janab Zainab will not forget to perform salat al-layl. And this is the reason in Zindan, in the prison in Sham, that when Imam Zain al-Abidin sees his aunt performing this salah sitting down, he said, oh my aunt, I have never seen you pray while you're sitting down. What has happened to you? She replied by saying, the food is so scarce, so limited, that I save even my portion, because when the children eat, they come back after a while. Is there more food? So I give them my food as well. It's been happening for a few days that I do not have the power to stand up and perform the salat. This is the way Zainab kept the salat intact. But then the time comes, they want to shut Imam Zain al-Abidin by reciting the adhan. When the muazzin gets to Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, when this call was recited, he said, stop, who is this Rasulullah? Your grandfather, or this Rasulullah, my grandfather? Yes, apparently Imam lost all of his family members. People were saying such a great loss, but he was saying we came back victorious. But Imam, when he came back, there was only one thing on his mind, Asham, Asham, Asham. He did not mention the problems and the atrocities of Karbala and Kufa. He said, why? He said, if you were to put through the parade with your loved ones and with the family members through the street of Kufa and Sham without the veils and the head covering, you would say the same thing. Ala lanatullahi al-qawm al-zalimin. wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayyamun qalamin yanqalibun. bar Allah हमारी सी बात कबूल फरमा, हम गुनाहगार हैं, हमारे गुनाहों से दरगुजर फरमा, हमें अहले बैत अलैहिस्सलाम के नक्शे कदम चलने की तौफीक अता फरमा, हमें उनकी तालीमात पर अमल करने की तौफीक अता फरमा, हमारे इमाम के ज़ुहूर में ताजील फरमा, हमें उनके आवान अंसार में शुमार कर. रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम. There's no time today for the question and answers. Inshallah, we'll do it tomorrow.